Hello and welcome to episode 20 of these here RPG tutorials. Today will actually be Friday the 13th when you guys are watching this, so happy weird day at best, and I hope you guys have something fun to do. Okay, so today we are going to add the projectiles as I mentioned before in the last video. And those projectiles are going to carry our damage from one place to the other, and if we had effects we would be putting them in there as well. We don't have any, so we won't be doing that, but that's what projectiles are for. I have 3 parts to my skills. And a 4th if you have buffs or debuffs added to it, but we'll leave it to 3 for right now. You have the skill itself, which controls all of the logic for casting it, all of the creation of the base parts, and all of the unique logic thereof. And then you have the projectile. The projectile is the travel mechanism. Or in the case of Blizzard or something like that, where you place it, it's just something that holds it outside of the skill, so the skill can start to reset and be kind of its own thing. You know, if it has a cooldown, the cooldown's already running, all that kind of stuff. The projectile itself will carry what the skill is doing. So it'll hold the damage, it'll hold, who cast it and what the targets are and all that kind of stuff. It can even hold the skill that it's associated with if you want it to. And then you have effects that actually go on the screen, which we're not going to deal with today either, but those are the 3 parts to the skill. The projectile also goes on the screen, but you can have more effects associated with, like an explosion and stuff like that. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to add the projectile class. I again am going to use a class from the previous tutorial. Feel free to look up my reasoning for why it is the way it is. I am going to edit it on screen this time because there's a lot of edits to it. This is also the 20th episode, so you're going to get the entire solution. So if you don't want to do the editing of the projectile, you can follow along, and it'll be in the shared materials as the entire project as well. So I'll have this and the shared the original Projectile 2D and the entire project, so it'll be there. The next thing we're going to do is set up the delegate. Then we're going to add the entire projectile pipeline. That's where we're going to spend the vast majority of our time. And then we're going to create the projectile and skill. That is also going to be a bit time consuming. So these are our time consuming steps today. So if you guys have made it this far and you're following along with me, please hit the like button. I know I beg for it every time, and it hurts me to have to beg for it, but it really does make a difference, and we are getting close to being able to monetize this channel, and that would be huge to me if we can get to that point. And so liking and subscribing and commenting is massive for the algorithm, especially as small as my channel is. For every time you guys do anything to interact with this video, it really boosts it, and I appreciate that. So help me out if you can. Yeah, so with that said, let's get right into it. So first things first, we're going to add that Projectile 2D class. So I'm going to put it this time. Last time I put it on its own level. More recently I've been putting it in units, because really only units cast or shoot projectiles. Now you can make the argument that there could be projectiles from all kinds of things, and that's why I put it outside last time, but I find that I'm usually looking for it here, and so I'm putting it here. So this top-down shooter, as you can see, so we definitely have to fix that and put in RPG tutorial. I don't think I kept it on my screen. Let's pen it. Okay, so we're going to place that. Now there's some things that we had last time that we don't have. We don't have attackable object, so that's going to just be unit. Our target was an individual spot. Well, I guess let's go through and fix a couple of those. Our target was an individual vector 2, and that's not what we're looking for this time. We want our target to be a unit. We could always have it be a spot too, but in this case, we're going to start with unit. We could always refactor it if we need to later. And then we didn't hold damage last time. I don't remember why that was, but maybe everything was just 1 damage. I don't remember, but we are going to hold damage this time. So let's do that, and then we need to hold target also. And then target equals target, and then damage equals damage. Okay. The position here is going to be target.pose now. And this is also target.pose. Same thing here. Okay. Now we passed a list of attackables. Well, that's not what we're looking for anymore because we pass in packets now. So we have our level unit packet, and then so we just call it packet. And then we're going to copy that and replace all of those same spots with it. Oh, it's just 2. Okay, just 2. That's fine. I thought there was a third, but alright, and then so we pass packet through here because that goes to here, and then inside packet here we're going to say packet dot mobs. Now clearly this is limited, right? Mobs can't attack with this. So what we're going to have to do eventually is we're going to have to see if the caster is a hero, then we're testing here against mobs, and if the caster is mobs, then we're testing against heroes. And actually, that's not even completely true because we're going to have to test heals also. So this is going to get overridden in some skills. So like a heal spell, for instance, would be different than that. It would be backwards, right? So you're targeting your own kind. That's all. I just know that this is limited. I know it's limited. Don't yell at me. It's just what we need to do for right now. We'll expand it as we go. So this whole thing has to do with trying to make sure that the other thing, like, we're not hitting ourselves. We don't have that problem here because we're targeting an actual target, so we can get rid of that. Now it's mobs, packet mobs instead of units everywhere. And that will do. Get hit is take damage. Take damage is unit damage. I think that's right. Attacker. Yep, we're hit. We're right. And then we don't have sounds yet. This will break things. So let's just comment that. Okay. Yeah, I think we hit speed. Probably a little bit fast for this game. Let's slow it down a little bit. It's turn-based. It doesn't have to move like lightning. We want to be able to see our projectiles and effects. You can speed it up and slow it down if you so choose to. Let's see. Am I missing anything else? Oh, yes. Totally missing how things move. Right now we have directional movement, which is fine, except for what we did last time. But what we need to do now is radial movement. So here we want to take this out completely and say game, or no, just globals dot radial movement, and then let's fill it out. So we know that speed goes here. Literally even just says speed right there, right? Ooh, lower cases, yucky. Okay, which one was which? The focus, so that's the target. Dot pose, and then this is just pose. Okay. So now it'll move wherever we need to be. So if the guy is diagonal, the thing will move diagonal, and if he's, you know, wherever, it'll move wherever. So that'll just take care of that. We won't have to worry about directional movement. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's look. Yeah, I think we're good. If not, we'll come back and we'll fix it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do real quick is we're going to create the fireball projectile. So first, let's create a folder called Projectiles. Inside Projectiles, we're going to add new item, fireball projectile. Add. I can't do anything about that being small, guys. I blew up my text over here for you, but I can't fix that screen that I know of. So I'm sorry. Bear with me for that 5 seconds. We just created fireball projectiles. No big deal. Okay. Let's get that put in. Let's get this thing turned to public. Fix the namespace. Next, it's public. Fireball projectile. Fireball projectile is a projectile 2D, and its base is what we need to make sure we fill out. So projectile 2D. Let's grab the whole thing to start with, and then we'll add and remove things as we go. All right. So the path we're not going to need. We're going to tell it what the fireball is supposed to look like. So let's get rid of that. We are going to use the position. Dims we're going to do ourselves because we know how big we want our projectile to be. Right now we're just going to 2020 it. I mean, you can do whatever you want there size wise. We do need to know what its owner is. We do need to know its target. And we do need to know its damage. Well, we don't actually technically need to know its damage. We are going to pass it in here, but if you could take the route that you know what a fireball does, and the fireball goes off the owner's stats and then figures out its own damage. That is totally acceptable too. That is not what we're going to do here. But in fact, that's probably the cleaner, more advanced way. Because you know these two things, so you should know enough to figure out what that is. Right now, we're just going to pass in a number, be done with it. And that's fine too, especially for our purposes. But all right, so we need position, owner, target, damage. That sounds right. And this is all correct. All we have to do is set up this guy, and I think we're going to do the circle. So that's just 2D misc. Well, if I could spell CIRCLE. There we go. Okay. That should be good enough for fireball because this is just going to pass through, and then we're going to use everything in projectile to make it run. All we're doing is setting up basic things for fireball and giving it a space to where we can, override things if we needed to. And for this case, we're done for now. Okay, and so we just should see a circle when it goes out. So we now have our projectiles. The next thing we need to do is set up our delegate, if I remember right. Pretty sure. Yep, we set up our delegate. So if we come over here into game globals, do we not have game globals? There's no way we don't have game globals. Gameplay, menu. Really? Wow. I mean, if we don't have game globals in here, then I guess we gotta add that too. I can do that. That's no problem. I had it in my prompt. Okay, give me a second. We can fix that. In-game globals will also be available to you. All right. Tutorial prompt. we'll find it. Goes right next to main. Okay, we have game globals. I apologize, guys. I thought we already had that in here. It's not a big deal. We haven't used it. But notice it already has, and this is just ported straight over from and cleaned out from the other tutorials. But we already have past projectiles, so that's great. Yeah, it threw me off a second. I'm sorry, guys. All right, so we have that. This will be also in your provided materials because I ain't typing this all out right now. And then, yeah, past projectile. Let's get that set. So in level, you can put this somewhere else, but I like it in level right now. I think. I don't think you're gonna have projectiles flying around outside of level, and if you do, then that would be a time to move it. But public virtual void add projectile object info and open close, and then we need a list of projectiles. So here we have public list projectile 2D equals new list what? Oh, I didn't name it. Sorry, guys. A little bit of blooper reel this last little bit. That threw me off a bit. It takes me a minute to recover. Okay, we have our list of projectiles. Let's add to it, which we started to do here. So projectiles.add, and then we need to cast it. And then I keep forgetting to do this on some of our stuff. So when we're adding things, we need to make sure this is not null. It's super rare. This should never be null, but if you mess up, it can start messing up a lot of things down the line in your code, because you start protecting for something that you shouldn't be protecting for. And if you just put this one little if statement there, then that's just a good way to keep things out. And we should be doing more of that. I don't do a lot of error checking in these because it takes a long time, but this one doesn't. Okay. Next is we need to add the projectile loops. So we need to do it under the packet because we need to pass that in. But we want to update our projectiles before we update everything else. So because projectiles could be altering what's alive and what's not alive, so it's important that we do them first. And so we're going to do our for loop for projectiles. We can use I because we're on the same level as all the rest of the I's. I less than projectiles.count. Now the other thing is there probably is only going to be like one projectile at a time, but maybe the mobs will have more than one that goes at a time. So, but we're going to set it up to handle all more than one because we should. You don't know what the game's going to entail, but there's a high likelihood that you end up with at least 2 projectiles on the screen at a time. Even if it's like a multi-shot thing, you're likely to have that happen. So projectiles dot update, and then we need to pass in level offset and level unit packet, and then we also need to sorry. We also need to check done and remove, right? So let's see. Yeah, it is just done. Projectiles done. Then projectiles remove at I minus. Now we'll take care of it. The draw loop is extremely simple. We are going to grab this, but we're just going to be removing from it because I don't want to type it again. So likewise, why we updated those first, we are actually going to draw it last because they go on top of everything. If you had a level draw manager, then you wouldn't have to worry so much about this. You just put their draw layer up one and be done with it. But here we're going to say draw, and we don't need any of this nonsense. Oh, we didn't set that part up. We did forget that. And then we don't need any of this done stuff. When I say we didn't set that up, we did not set up not needing these offsets because, well, the reason for that is we didn't do base dot update and then pass in offset. So now that'll be updated, right? Because it's right there. And then we can use our draw with no parameters. So that's good. Happy days. Pipeline is set up. It doesn't like hit dist, so that's right. I just fed it a regular number. If it's within, say, 10, then it hits. That's fine. And then this is actually damage. Oop, I missed a couple things. All right, but we found them now, so we're good. Check our error list. Our error list is clean. Okay, so we have the projectiles made. We have set up their pipeline to make them work. The thing that we need to do now is get our fireball code working. So everything that goes in here. I kind of talked about it a little bit. I want to kind of go over it in a little bit of detail here. It's not a ton of code. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to first check this if the slot is available. Check if the slot is available. And, or I should say just targetable. Okay, so we have this list of places that we're allowed to click. Now, that's a limiting factor, and we want that, right? We want to limit this. We don't want to be able to attack the whole screen. So we're using this as a limitation, a range per se. And so first we want to limit our data. If it's not within that, then we just want to ignore it, right? We want to just say, no, that's not a thing. That's not something we want. We could even put out errors later, but right now it's just we're just going to ignore it. That was not a valid click. Try again. And so we want to check that data. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to find if there's a mob in that slot. Find if there is a mob in that slot. So after we check to see if the slot is legal, is there a mob that's legal there? For Fireball, we need to click on a mob. Now, could you have an AoE that targets space later? Yes, you could. That's not what we're doing right now. You'd need to get Projectile to target a space, not just a unit. You just have to add that ability in there. And yeah, no big deal. All right, check the mob. If there's a mob, then we want to create the projectile with the enemy as the target. Okay, so that's our basic flow. I don't think it's missing anything. I think that's all right. If after we do this, we also set things to done. So we'll have a couple interesting breakpoints to talk about, but, well, not all that interesting, but slightly interesting. So first we need to know where we're clicking. So temp slot equals grid dot. I don't even think we have this. Get. Yeah, we do. Get slot from pixel. Good. So get slot from pixel. We need to pass in the mouse coordinates. So globals dot mouse dot new mouse pose. I probably should make that its own thing. New vector 2. I don't really want to be editing in my mouse pose if I did any editing in here. So new mouse y. Okay. And then offset. Okay. So we know where we're clicking now. We have the slot in the for loop. We're going to test that slot against all other slots. So for, this is our I loop. Yep. Int I equals 0, I less than targetable slots dot count I plus plus. Okay, and then if the slots are the same. Oh, double 2 right there. Let's get rid of that. And so the slots are this slot and these slots. So so temp slot dot x equals target slot dot pose target slot I dot pose dot x and the y version of those. So this checks for a legal slot. Now that we have a legal slot, we know that we are breaking out afterwards. Why are we breaking out afterwards? Well, because if we already found the slot, it shouldn't be in there twice. And if it is, you shouldn't be checking it twice because that's double the calculations. So if you screwed up, we still want to break. And if you did it right, we still want to break. So either way, we want to break, so we put a break in. Oh, this is going to be a 4. Sorry, 4. And this is j, int j equals 0. J less than, this is going to be, did I do it that way? I did. Okay, we left this enemies, and that's fine. We'll do that. J less than enemies. I thought we were going to use the packet for a second, so apologies. Enemies.count. J plus plus. This actually goes here, and then we do the whole if it's the same slot, but this time we're going to use enemies J current slot or current location. We can copy that for here. Easy peasy, we don't need pose. And then in here, we're going to create the projectile. So this needs to be inside there. And if we found it, we're going to break. Right, so if we find this, we are going to break. Again, because if we found it, if we did it right and it was in there or not in there when it's supposed to be, then we want to break and not continue calculating and processing. And if we did it wrong and there were 2 of this thing in there, then we still want to break because we don't need to calculate it twice. So either way, we want to break. If we get in here, then we have done something. Okay. But even though we've done something, what is that something? Well, we're going to make our projectile. Game globals dot pass projectile. You know what? I don't think I created this. I did not. mistakes were made. Game globals dot pass projectile equals add projectile. Easy enough. That would have been a mistake and it would have broke it. All right. Pass projectile. And in here we say new fireball projectile. We'll get its pose in a second. I'm going to say owner. I'm going to say enemies J. And the damage is going to be 3. And then here, for the position, we're going to create a new vector 2. It's going to be owner pose X, owner pose Y. X, owner pose Y. If you don't create that, you're going to start moving your owner. So definitely create a new vector 2 here. I had somebody on my butt about sometimes I do this too often. Yeah, I do. But I don't always want to think through every single possible outcome, and a vector 2 is so little memory that just creating a new one is better. You don't have to think about it all the time. If you run into real memory problems for some reason, like your game has billions and billions of vector 2s everywhere, and I'm not exaggerating, literally billions and billions, because you're doing something like, I don't know, like a, what is this, Star Citizen or any of that kind of stuff, like these big, huge games. All right, yeah, you might have to think about what you're doing there. But if you're doing anything normal, even like most AAA games would fall into this case, you don't need to worry about that tiny, tiny little bit of memory. Much more likely you need to worry about your texture sizes and stuff, more so, and your loading your graphics memory in your shaders. Apologize for the yawn. Okay, this should do the trick. Let's make sure that we done something. Does not have an out yet. Okay, hold on. So we need to get our skill here to say done equals true. And if I remember right, we already had it so that if the active skill is done, then an action is taken, and action taken gets us through somehow. Let's see. Find our references. Yeah, turn done. Okay. All right. So we're good. That pipeline is already taking care of that part of the pipeline, even though we didn't use it last time. So, all right, let's test it and see what we got. Play. We need to be a mage. Start the game. We are here. Let's just move for shits and giggles. There's our targeting. Let's target this guy. Boom. But I think it's still our turn. Well, it's still our turn. That is not correct. So, let's see. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it just decided it wasn't there. Nope, it didn't hit here. Well, it killed him. That's good. But I don't know why we're not hitting here. So let's go to hero. Actually, let's go to active skill and make sure it's getting done. Fireball. And done something is here, and done equals true. So let's try that. Let's move in range over here. Gotta cancel that. Yeah, done's true there. Sure. Okay, now let's see. Okay, done's true. Good. Then let's look at hero here, and let's say it's targeting active skill done, false. What do you mean false? We said it's true. Oops. Go to definition. Go to definition. Release reset. Oh, we should also be resetting the grid, which we didn't do. Huh. Oh, done false. We undone ourselves. If not done. I might break something else, but I should have done that in a breakpoint. Maybe it was. Let's just start over. Alright, let's make sure everything's working. Yeah, done, true. I know, thank you. Okay, let's cast. Yeah, thank you. All my breakpoints were hitting. We did this in the wrong order. Go like this. Let's try it one more time. Sorry. Clearly I did this not exactly like my prompt, because my prompt was just fine. And now I've got a lingering, there's no error here. I have a lingering process because of the way I closed it. So bear with me. I'm going to have to close this and reopen it. Let me make sure I have that open. Tutorial. Okay, close. Open it. Bit of a shit show, guys. Apologies. Like I said, nothing was wrong with it. Just a lingering process. Something to do with this new Visual Studios. Never happened before that. All right, start game. Do that. We do that. It hits, and they had their turn. Okay, that's what we wanted. Apologies for it not being in the right state. It was not my smoothest ending, but we worked through it together, and hopefully you can see that process that I went through to figure out what I was doing. Yeah. Guys, if you made it this far and you have 2 seconds, please hit the like button and subscribe and throw me a comment. And this is a 20 round, so if you have friends that you think this might be interesting too, they're going to have access to the entire solution. The entire solution will be up there for you guys to download. It'll literally be there forever, so just let them know. And if they're interested, maybe I can help them out on their journey of game design. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.